by a bent line, by a straight line, by a crooked line. The Crooked Path, a podcast for modern cunning folk with Peter Pagan. Hello and welcome to The Crooked Path. My name is Peter Pagan, and tonight we're going to take a look at the egg. You'll need to turn your volume off.
Okay, wait, stop. Okay, wait.
What?
We need to just stop for a second.
What's happening?
It was, there's like four, the feed of the YouTube is coming through this as well. So I need to mute the YouTube somehow over here. Just bear with me for 1 second.
Computer's off at me. Yeah, now I see it.
I stopped the record because that was all combobulated.
Start the whole thing again.
I'm gonna.
That's the easiest way.
I'm gonna.
Oh, good.
Okay, stop streaming. I'm just gonna reset.
Yeah, you didn't want to stop the streaming. I'm not sure I'll let you go back to it.
Okay, well, it's still going. Alright, so let me just reset this. Back to that.
By a bent line, by a straight line, by a crooked line. The Crooked Path, a podcast for modern cunning folk with Peter Pagan. Hello and welcome to The Crooked Path. My name is Peter Pagan, and tonight we're going to be taking a look at the amazing egg. But first, here's some news. So, this coming Saturday we start vending our regular Saturday venue at the Melrose Trading Post new site at Taft Charter School in Woodland Hills. That's on Ventura Boulevard at Winnetka, just in case you're wondering. Going to be selling all kinds of geeky goodness in the glassware department, and Anna will be selling her jewellery, and probably won't have much in the way of pottery this week, but before too much longer Linda will have got her stock back up and we'll have some wonderful pottery for you to view as well. And in a couple of weeks, the weekend of April 11th to the 14th, Linda and I will be at ConjureCon in Santa Cruz, so if you go into that, I'll look forward to seeing you there. Come up and say hello. And that's it for the news this week. Short week. So, the occult symbolism of the egg. You may wonder why I'm choosing that for a subject right now. Well, we're coming up on the good old Christian festival of Easter and the pagan festival of Ostara, and there's a certain egginess about the whole season anyway, so I thought it would be a good thing to work with. Now, when you look at occult lore, the most immediate thing that slaps you in the face regarding eggs is the world egg, also known as the cosmic egg, which is that from which everything came. And a lot of cultures seem to have this egg thing. In ancient Greek lore, one of the gods came out of a cosmic egg and started the whole shebang off, and the ancient Egyptians kind of had this egg of light on the primordial mound, out of which came forth Atum, the creator. And a lot of Eastern religions obviously have a lot of eggy symbolism going on there for the beginning of everything as well. From a more practical magic perspective, the egg is a symbol that can be seen to represent the element of spirit. You know, the classical elements: earth, air, fire, water, spirit. The cosmic egg, or akashic egg, is representative of spirit. And then there's my favourite piece of eggy symbolism, and that's the druid egg. And this is a little more prosaic, a little more practical, a little more in your face. In Welsh, the druid egg is known as Gleini Nadir, or the serpent's egg, and it was described by Pliny, or Pliny, or however you pronounce his name. I have to ask our Greek friends to tell me how to pronounce Pliny. But I've always pronounced it Pliny because I'm British. And his description was, "Nonetheless, I have seen one of these eggs myself. It was round, the size of a small apple. The shell was cartilaginous and mottled with cups like the tentacles of a squid." Now, interestingly enough, although he describes it as having a hard cartilaginous shell, his description of how it's made is very interesting. It's basically made by a bunch of snakes writhing around in sexual ecstasy, and basically the mucus that they lubricate each other with during this process, little snake orgy going on, formed the egg, which, apart from oo, or ew, is it's an interesting thing, because when you actually look at the eggs of snakes, they tend to have a soft leathery shell, and so they really don't fit the description at all. And there's some question amongst many academics as to what the hell Pliny was on when he described the druid egg, because, as I said, the description of how it was formed didn't match anything like the description of what it looked like. And so there are those in the esoteric world, and I'm one of them, who believe that while he described this fanciful idea of writhing snakes forming these eggs in the midst of their sexual frenzy, this was some sort of metaphor or a symbolic description, because if you look at his actual physical description, the one I just read, cartilaginous shell, about the size of a small apple, mottled with cups like the tentacles of a squid, there's actually only one thing that actually matches that description. And you have to bear in mind that back in those days, the apples they would have been talking about were crab apples, what we know today as crab apples, which tend to be between 1 and 2 inches in size when they're ripe. And so we're looking for something about that big, that's got a hard, rocky shell, or sort of, just rock hard, basically, with what looks like the markings of a tentacle on it. And the thing that fits the bill best, and is generally accepted as being the authentic druid's egg, is a fossilized sea urchin, Hermicidaris crenularis alamp, which is a lot easier to say if you're Roman, because it's Latin. And this is one of these sea urchins, and they happen to be found off the coast of Wales, amongst other places, and they fit the description perfectly. So that is my druid's egg, so no touchy because it's mine. Nice, precious. And I'll be talking later in the praxis section on how you might use these little puppies. That's if it doesn't escape. Anyway. Eggs tend to be all about new life, new beginnings, and also about spirit. The Akashic egg, the cosmic egg, is, as I said before, is a very big symbol. The interesting thing is the Brobdingnagian question about whether it should be pointy side up or pointy side down is definitively answered in the cosmic egg, because with the cosmic egg the pointy side is down, so it's always standing on its point. So, you know, if you've ever wondered which way up your hard-boiled egg should be in its egg cup, if you're being cosmic man, they're definitely pointy side down. And no need to start a war over that. And that's basically all I'm going to talk about for the law, because I'm actually more interested in talking about some of the practical aspects of eggery, egomancy. So let's move on to praxis, shall we? Already? We're back. So, working with eggs. As somebody once said famously in the 60s, go to work on an egg, because it's good for you. And the even worse joke, why does Francois Mitterrand, who back when I was a kid was the president of France, the joke used to be, why does Francois Mitterrand go to work on an egg? And the answer was, because enough is enough. So that's the bad jokes out of the way, you'll be pleased to know. So what do we use eggs for? Well, there's different types of egg that you can use in practical magic. The first and most obvious choice is an actual chicken's egg. And these are actually can be used as a substitute for sacrifice. Occasionally you find yourself reading through an old tome and you find a really cool spell, and it's really cool, you really want to try it, but it calls for doing something dastardly like sacrificing a kitten or a black bird or a dove or something like that, and you think, well, I don't want to do that, we don't do that stuff anymore. Well, you'll be pleased to know that there is a humane, well, I don't even know if humane is the right word, but an ethical alternative. Occultly speaking, esoterically speaking, it is generally accepted that breaking an egg is a reasonable substitute for a sacrifice, because it ends a potential life. Even though the egg from the supermarket is hopefully unfertilized, it still represents a potential life, and when you crack it, you take away that potential, and that is seen as an acceptable sacrifice. Personally, I prefer reworking your spells so they don't require a sacrifice in the first place. But if you have to at short notice, that's a suitable substitute, as long as you're not a vegan who is vegan for ethical reasons, and you know, oh, but the life of the poor egg. It's yeah, most people are okay with breaking a few eggs here and there. There are a lot of interesting spells using eggs. Here's one that I find very interesting from New Orleans voodoo. It's a voodoo spell to get rid of bad luck. You purchase a brown egg, a brown chicken's egg, but it has to be purchased before noon. And you place it in a brown paper bag tied with a black string. And each night you take the egg out and you rub it over your whole body. Place it back in the bag and then blow 3 times into the bag. And you do this for 9 days. Or if the bag starts moving by itself, you stop on the 7th day. And then you dispose of the bag outside the house without looking inside the bag, especially if it's moving. That was very specific, you know, the old book I found this in, the very specific instructions. If the bag is moving by itself, do not look inside, dispose of the bag immediately. Which I found very entertaining. But it's supposed to be very good at getting rid of negativity that gets attached to you. So if you're the sort of person who gets a lot of negative crap thrown at you, maybe it's time to start egging yourself. You can egg yourself on. While we were setting up for this very podcast, our dear friend Raven here, shared with us one of her favourite spells. Well, not spell so much as using an egg for diagnosis with healing, where you run the egg over the body, and anywhere where it slips is where there's something, an imbalance of some sort, and you want to go back and check it out. And I thought that was very cool too, so that's why I'm including it. But my most important and interesting thing is, of course, working with this little puppy, the Druid egg, because what's the point of having one if you don't use it? Now, anyone who's read my enchantment book or did the enchantment workshops with me a year or so ago, or attended my enchantment workshop, will know that one of the primary uses for the Druid egg is as a focal point. And you can actually, when you're learning, you start off with a clear crystal because it's shiny and pretty and gets your attention more. But once you get the hang of it, you can graduate to something like this. And you may ask yourself, why am I using a bud ugly fossil of an invertebrate sea creature, which I'm calling a serpent's egg, even though it isn't? Why do I want to use that for my enchantment? Well, the reason is that there is something about the shape. Those of you who are familiar with the Platonic solids will be aware that there is a lot of esoteric lore attached to shape. It's like a three-dimensional version of the star diagrams. The six-ray star, the pentagram, the octagram, the enneagram, the heptagram, the dodecagram, the seeing telegram. No, that's there is an intrinsic energy signature to shapes, and I like to think of this as kind of like a TARDIS console, because that's the way it kind of pulls me into this no time, no space. I get into trance very quickly focusing on this, and especially playing with it, because it's knobbly and it's textured, and it does interesting things to your senses once you've been working with it for a while. And essentially what you do with it is you use it as a focal point, almost like the lens of a telescope or a microscope, to focus your energies and focus your intent, focus your will. And it's really boring to watch. I mean, I'm doing it right now, and all I'm doing is holding it like an eyepiece. Obviously you can't see through it, but I'm doing all my visualization. Try that again with teeth. Doing all my visualization in the Druid egg, so it really does become a lens for me. And there's something intrinsic in the shape of it, the space it occupies, the energy of it, the fact that it's been used for millennia for this purpose, that it just really amps things up. I found I really loved using my quartz crystal when I started out with the enchantment stuff. When I switched over to this, it was an exponential jump in results. So I can't stress off enough just how good it is. And of course, it's one of the most boring techniques to demonstrate on video, because it's just, which is not exactly exciting. I mean, you can also use it as a projectile, keep the students awake when they start dozing off in the middle of class. But I'd be careful, because these things are actually quite rare. They're not easy to come by. You don't know how long I looked for this, minutes even, on eBay. But it is surprising. I didn't think it would work as well as the crystal, because the crystal has lens-like properties, and especially when you're visualizing making changes at a distance, it seemed to make sense to use the quartz crystal, because you can look through it and focus through it and all that kind of thing. And I thought, this grisly piece of calcified rock isn't going to work. And guess what? I was wrong, I'm pleased to say. I wouldn't be without this now. I prefer this to any of my crystals. And as I said, it's a focal point. So you don't just use it for enchantment. You can use it for focusing your energy of any kind. I like holding it in my hand like that, and so I will focus energy using my other fingers whilst holding it, or using it as an eyepiece, or just generally having it sort of cupped in my hand like this while I'm doing energy work, and it really seems to make a difference for me. So I'm not saying you should go out and get a druid egg, but I think if you do, you will be quite pleased with the results if you have an affinity for it. I think it helps being Welsh. Having at least some Celtic blood in you would probably help, because it's as much as anything else, it's the ancestral memories. This awakens the ancestral memories. The moment I first picked it up in my hand, when I took it out of the box it arrived in, it was like, oh, I remember you. I knew intrinsically this was the right thing. The moment I picked it up, because as I touched it, I just felt, this is my druid egg. And you really can't argue with that. Well, you can, but you'd be a fool. And that's really it for today. I just wanted to do a little brief touch. I mean, I could go on about the symbolism of chocolate eggs and bunnies that lay eggs, but we'll save that for somebody else. Because trying to get healthy, I don't do the chocolate eggs thing anymore. Hardly ever do chocolate anymore. But I'll survive somehow. Don't worry about me. When I'm thin and gorgeous looking, I'll eat chocolate again. And then I'll get big and fat again, and the cycle will continue. I'm going to try and stay thin when I get thin this time. So anyway, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy us being on YouTube. I know the tests we ran, the video and the audio were better synced and were generally better quality than with Ustream. The lag is a little longer, which is a problem at our end. It's not anything you have to worry about. But the fact that it's much more accessible on YouTube and the comments are there, pretty easy to use, it all worked out pretty well. So let us know how you feel about that. Obviously, it's also automatically available on YouTube as a recording once we're finished, but it'll also be up on the podcast page and on iTunes as well if you want to look for it there. So thanks a lot. Have a good week. See you next time.
By a bent line, by a straight line, by a crooked line. The Crooked Path, a podcast for modern cunning folk with Peter Panner.